Hello and welcome to the Futures Lab. So, last week we put dialogue into our game. This week, let's animate that dialogue. Let's make it so that it spells itself out, letter by letter, character by character, just like we see here. So in your project, go to your enemy sprite, which for me is Scratch. Now, you've already got define dialogue 1 and define dialogue 2, and maybe a bunch more. And inside these my blocks, you've got say blocks. We're going to create something that will replace these say blocks. Go to my blocks, click on make a block. We're going to call this new my block enemy speech bubble. Then click on add an input and call this input text. Then press OK. Now move this define enemy speech bubble off. We've got some space underneath it. Now up till now, we've been showing our entire message all at once. So say hello shows the entirety of the message, hello, for 5 seconds. The whole thing appears. But what we actually want is something a bit more like this, something that spells out our messages, leaves them up for a little while, and then puts on the next message. But we can't possibly do it like this. We needed 6 lines just to get the word hello out. That just seems unfeasible. Thankfully, we've got a much better way of making this work with code. So we need a way to take whatever we put into this input here, the text input, and breaking it up and spelling it out slowly. So to do that, we're going to make 2 variables. The first variable is going to keep count of how far we are along in showing and spelling out the entire message, and the other variable is going to keep track of what are we currently saying. So go to variables, click on make a variable, and the first variable is going to be called display text. And then click on for this sprite only and press OK. Let's make our other variable, and we're going to call this one text counter. Again, click for this sprite only and then press OK. Now at the beginning of our code here, we need to reset our display text to be nothing. And we need to set our text counter to 0. Hello, Jen. You want to be in the YouTube video, do you? Now what we code next needs to happen for every single letter in our text input. So go to Control and get out a repeat. Then go to Operators and get out a length of apple. Put it into the repeat and get out this text and put it over apple. Go to variables and we need to change our text counter by 1, and then we need to update our display text. So get out a set display text, and inside that let's put a join. We want to join the current display text, so go to variables and get out display text with the next letter. So go to operators and get out letter 1 of apple, get text and put it over apple, and then go to variables and get out our text counter variable and put it over letter 1. Then go to looks and get out say hello, put it right here, and over the hello, get out another display text. Let's see what that does, shall we? I'm just going to get out an enemy speech bubble block and put in our hello exclamation mark. All right, watch closely. There we go. We can see that that's spelling out. It's happening very fast. Let's add in the ability to control the speed, shall we? Right click on define enemy speech bubble, edit, then click on text, add a label. We're going to call this label speed, then click add an input, and we're going to call this input speed. Press OK. Now let's go to control and add in a wait speed seconds at the end. Let's run this at a slower speed, shall we? I'm going to set this to a 0.3 speed. Then let's have a look. There we go, much slower. Now another thing that Undertale speech bubbles do is they have a sound that plays with each letter as it's typed. So you're probably very familiar with this sound. That's the sound that Sans makes as all of the letters appear as he's talking. So we're going to do something similar with our code. So let's choose a sound for our character to make as they're spelling out each letter, shall we? Let's go to the top left corner to where it says sounds. Now we could use something like the meow, but that's actually quite long. So what I'd recommend is you use this button here, fade out, a bunch of times. And each time you do that, it makes it a little bit shorter. And that's going to sound a lot nicer when you're repeating them really, really fast. You can also make them a bit softer if you think that's going to be a bit too loud. And another sound that I quite like is this particular sound, which is suction cup. Again, I'm just going to make sure that's faded out. And we're going to see what both of those sounds sound like. So once you're finished choosing your sounds, head back to the code and go to sound and get out start sound and put it right above your weight. So let's see what it sounds like when we use the suction cup to start off with, shall we? So this sounds pretty slow. Let's change the speed to 0.05, shall we? That sounds a bit more like an Undertale character. We could even try changing the speed to nothing. There we go. Now we could also use a pitch effect to change how high or low the sound is. So get out set pitch effect, and if you put it just above our start sound, now a positive number like 100 would make the pitch go up, and a negative number like -100 would make the pitch go down. So let's see what those both sound like. Set pitch effect to 100, and let's see what that sounds like. That's quite cool. Let's set it to -100. Oh, spooky. Now you could also put a random number in here. If you wanted the random number to be between maybe 90 and 120, it makes it sound like this. So using a random number gives you a more varying noise, one that's not always exactly the same each time it plays. Let's see what the meow sounds like. With a high pitch, it sounds like this. And with a low pitch, it sounds like this. Ah, very cool. I'm going to continue going with the suction cup noise, but you feel free to choose a noise that you like and mess around with its pitch until you have something that you like the sound of and it sounds Undertale-ish to you. Now what we need is some way of making this text go away. And there's actually a very easy way to do this. Go to Looks, get out Say Hello, but this time put it on the bottom and make that hello nothing. And when we do that, watch this, it just entirely removes the text box. So put that say on the bottom here. So let's give that a test now, shall we? And it goes away a bit faster than I think I would like it to. Now, we could just put a wait in here to make sure this text stuck around for a little while, or we could put in a wait until. And we could put in a wait until any key is pressed. Key any. And that way the player decides when the text moves on. We all read at different speeds, so this is nice and accessible to all players of different ages. So now let's go back to Dialogue 1 and update it, replacing the says with enemy speech bubble blocks. And that's quite easy. We can just Control X and Control V. And I'll just duplicate that. I'm going to keep the speed as nothing because I want it to be nice and fast. So there we go. I've updated it a little bit here, and I've changed the speed of the last line of enemy speech bubble. So we'll see what that looks like. Okay, let's see. Okay, this looks good. Now it doesn't move on until I press a button, and then it moves on. That's quite good. Now this looks a bit strange, doesn't it? It's making the noise for all of the spaces as well as all of the letters. but we can fix that in the code. All we need to do is go back to our define enemy speech bubble, and we need to wrap this sound and the wait in an if. So get out an if and put it right here. You need these 3 lines inside it, and then we're going to put a not equal to. We're going to get out this letter text counter of text, because that's the current letter that's being added to our display text variable. So put your mouse over this of, right click and duplicate, and put that into the first socket of your not equals, and then click on this 50 and put in a space. So it's not going to play the sound, and it's not going to wait when it encounters a space. It will just add it to the display text variable and continue on with the rest of the message. Now this next bit is optional, but if you want the speed of your text to be a little bit faster when the speed is left blank, just put another little if specifically around your wait, and then we need a not equal to, and we need the speed, and then this 50, just delete it and leave nothing there. Okay, let's give it a test now, shall we? Okay, I like that so far. You can see why I added in that little bit of optional code just to make the typing a bit faster. And then let's see what this looks like. That makes a lot more sense now, only having the noise play when it's actually typing a letter. And afterwards, it just starts the attack wave. So there you have it. You can replace all of your say blocks with your new enemy speech bubble blocks. Have a bit of an experiment with different sounds and different pitch effects until you find one that you like. Don't forget to make sure that you use the fade out function to make sure it's really short, otherwise it will sound a little bit weird when you string them really close together. You can also get a little bit fancy if you want. You could create a new input that changed the pitch effect or changed the sound if you wanted the voice of your character to change partway through the battle. Subscribe and ring the bell to make sure you don't miss the next episode, and let me know in the comments what you would like me to do next, or if you need help with your project. And aside from that, stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.